Steve, episode 39 of the Broadway Bach. Got a point yesterday, coming in with 94 points, 2 points ahead of the Pens at 92, Canes with 98. My questions for you today: are the Rangers in a slump? Do we just play down to our competition? Or are we just not that good and Igor has made us look better?
I think we're pretty good, and Igor has definitely made us look maybe better than we are playing to. There's a weird part of me that feels like this was destined to happen, and sometimes you look for those pockets in the schedule where you're playing some winnable games, and I kind of hope we get out of that pocket because we were playing against some high caliber talent and we were playing really well, I felt. Um, it's hard not to call it a slump, right? Because we are playing down to the level of some teams that are destined to not make the playoffs. And we joked about it, in the Sabres game and in the Devils game, but here we are against the Islanders, and I guess no disrespect to them in the regard that they're kind of having a little bit of a resurgence. They need about 7 games to catch up to the Caps, and the Caps have kind of been struggling lately to keep up with the rest of the pack. It was looking pretty even for the top 4 with points for a while in the East. So to see the Caps have about a 10-point slip gives a team like the Islanders a little bit of hope because they've just been playing the best hockey they've been playing, aside from right before the All-Star break. But for us, I think it's maybe falling back down to reality a little bit. It would be nice to see Igor's play get better because he can just steal us games in the ways that he was playing in the sort of mid-season form. So I'd be hoping to kind of get back to that. And a little bit of the newer additions has just sort of like breathed a little bit of light into, it's easy to forget about some of the glaringly obvious struggles when there are some shiny toys. So the new guys performing, that's been nice. Aside from that, even Fox has been a little off. Panarin's starting to really look like he's silencing all the doubters, though. Kind of recovering.
Panarin, I can't wait.
I can't either, honestly. And Mika March is over, but he played at like a point per game clip. So we'll see. I mean, if the Top Guns can carry us into the playoffs, that will hopefully make up for some of the maybe more realistic play of guys like Fox and Igor. Because for a while it was crazy, and it was, I feel like, a factual statement to say that we had a Vezina caliber goalie and a back-to-back potential Norris Trophy winner. I don't think anybody's screaming that anymore. We do still have perhaps a guy in Kreider who could win you the Rocket if he keeps scoring. I mean, he's been playing great, and even noticeable in the games that he's not scoring in, which I think is important. But
injuries, well, I'm actually happy that we have 12 games to kind of figure it out. I see that we have Ryan Strome, who has missed 4 straight. So that will be interesting to see where he fits in once he comes back. Will he be back up on the top line on power play time, or will Kopp get in there? Then also I saw Kakko is going to start practicing at the end of the week. So that's also a good sign. So that brings up more question marks. Like, are we going to bring back the kid line of Laugh, Hedel, Kakko, or do you kind of slide Kopp back up there and bump Kakko up to the top line to kind of give it a little veteran presence there? So that will be interesting. The no scoring in 5 periods was rough. Watching Rangers Twitter, everyone was ready to jump off a cliff. So that was more entertaining than the game. But that being said, Panarin really kept shooting. It wasn't like we weren't getting opportunities. Trouba kept shooting. Everyone was shooting. Kreider was still in front of the net. Just things weren't clicking. Both of the games, I felt like in the neutral zone, we were getting outplayed on the boards, weren't winning loose pucks. We looked like a team that had played a lot of games, but we really hadn't. So that was frustrating. It made sense that Igor got the start for the Islanders after Grigoriev had that great win against Detroit. Igor then had a little rough showing yesterday, but held his own on some saves and stuff. But for the most part, been playing pretty flat. I don't know if it's, like I said, the new guys coming in, fitting in, injuries playing a factor to it. But we should see in the next couple of weeks. We got the Devs coming up. We got Devs tomorrow, Pens Thursdays, and then the Sens Saturday. So out of those games, we know we play every game tough, so I don't want to say any playing the Devs is a gimme game. Pens is a good challenge for us, and it will be interesting to see the goaltending matchups for those games. Igor's had 2 rough outings. Does Gallant go back to Gogorgiev against the Devils? Risk us losing another game? We still haven't qualified for the playoffs, like clinched. So that will be interesting to see. Steve, who do you think's in net tomorrow?
Tough, man. How many more games do you need to give Gorgiev, before we get into playoffs? I feel like uniquely these last 12 games, normally we're talking about making the playoffs. Now we're talking about clinching as a formality, and we got to get into playoff form. So I would say that Igor probably still gets the lion's share, I would hope, and barring any back-to-backs. But the schedule's looking pretty scarce of those. So maybe hopefully only a couple more Gorgiev. Not that I have anything against Gorgiev. I don't mean to, I guess, create that sort of narrative, but Igor needs his starts, and I feel like he's got to feel like the hot hand, and maybe leave no discrepancy in that. We're playing it down the road, rest assured, and guys like Fox, that are going to be leaned on heavily too. Like maybe shake this shit out now while we have still time, because like I said, uniquely to this season, we're in a position where I would say, barring anything, crazy, we're going to be in the playoffs. Now, for us to not make the playoffs, you would have to have a crazy push from the Islanders. We would have to drop behind the Caps. A lot of things would have to happen for that. So I would say that we're making the playoffs for sure. And these last 12 games, we got to kind of rekindle that spark that we were having, where we were undeniable. And there was a point last game, we're down a goal, trailing, late in the game as well. And I still had a little bit of hope, and they proved me right. They tie the game, we take it into overtime, we get a point, maybe in a game that we wouldn't have used to get that point. So there's that. It's not like this was a complete wash of a game. And man, Garden was electric after Kopp scored that goal, man. It's a beautiful.
I was about to say that Kopp goal. Whoo!
And how about a little chemistry building between those two? It's going to be interesting to see maybe the Strome situation. Yeah, to see maybe what happens when Strome enters into free agency. So
it will be like, do you pick Kopp or do you pick Stromer? So it will be interesting to see. Do you think Panarin's in there, like weighing his favorite?
No, the player. It's not basketball, right? Like hopefully the player doesn't have that much swing into a contract negotiation. But I feel like a guy like Strome, the recency bias is going to play into a factor here with Kopp, because it's a shiny new toy. But I feel like Strome is certainly worth the keep if it can be under a team. I don't want to say team friendly deal, because everybody can't sign a team friendly deal, but hopefully he gets paid and we can keep him. If we're not going to keep him, hopefully we can unload him for some level of asset. But there's a lot of talk about him just maybe walking, which I don't know if that narrative is created by the fan who doesn't necessarily know the move to make with a guy like that, and then that's just the obvious answer. But I feel like the obvious pick in my mind is to try to trade him and get something for his contract negotiation rights. We trade a third to get a contract negotiation right. We've traded 6th round picks for contract negotiation rights. So a guy like Strome, maybe he fetches a little bit more than that because of his production, or we can sign him to a deal that doesn't rock the boat too much. But there's not a lot of money in the future. This is all this cap space that we didn't really sort of dip into. Albeit I'm glad with the acquisitions that we made, because we didn't really deaden that prospect pool. Or the future.
We got to pay Kako, we got to pay Miller, we got to pay Laugh eventually.
Precisely right. The money doesn't necessarily exist later to make those calls. So it's going to be interesting to see. And if he can continue this style of play, I think it only makes it harder if you're Strome's agent to get a contract rolling.
Good place to be if you're Chris Drury.
Yeah, I mean, look, I feel like we stood behind a little bit of Strome when he had all that chemistry, and it's hard to turn on a player so quickly like that. But when a guy's not producing and now he's injured, the recency bias is definitely going to take over, and people are going to start siding with Kopp sooner than later. So I guess for now, it's nice to see them building some chemistry. And if the worst case scenario, what we get out of a guy like Kopp, once we're healthy, that is a third liner who can step up into those secondary power play roles when necessary. I mean, it's not a bad place to be either. So can't wait till the game, man.
Can't wait. How many days to that game?
So we're going on the 16th, so we're 12 days
12,
away.
12 days away. I like it. Less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, and speaking of some time that's passed, man, it's been a year since we started doing these, brother. So cheers to that. Hopefully we can do
Happy
a bunch
1
more.
year.
Right on, brother.
All right. Thanks for your time, Steve. Let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers.